What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Archives. Today, I want to talk about the career of Eric Bischoff. Um, I think that this will be what Eric Bischoff is known for in his career. I don't see him topping this moment, but Eric Bischoff's career defining moment is absolutely when he turned Hulk Hogan into a bad guy with the helps of Hall and Nash, because he got over Hall and Nash for good, with the wrestling fans. Razor was over, but not like that. Diesel was over, but not like that. Those guys could have drifted off into obscurity and they would have been just, some other good wrestlers from the 90s or whatever. But when they became Hall and Nash in the NWO and Hogan turned heel, that was the moment that is the moment that solidifies Eric Bischoff's contribution to the wrestling business. And some people would say that that was also Eric Bischoff's way of taking away from the wrestling business, as in up in a cloud of smoke it went by the year, what was it, 2000, 2001, whatever. So what we're talking about here is Eric Bischoff's contribution to the wrestling business a good thing, or is Eric Bischoff one of these guys that took away from the wrestling business? And, I'm not going to sit here and be a troll on the internet. I'm an Eric Bischoff fan, and, I'm also a Jim Cornette fan. So these kinds of things, man, it's important to talk about these kinds of things. Eric Bischoff, I would say, is somebody that should be spared of, being somebody who gets shit on in the wrestling business. I think Eric Bischoff has proven himself with his podcast to be able to talk about things that, he might not be the happiest about, but he's able to talk about shit in a calm, cool, collected manner, which in some way is very powerful, because Eric Bischoff was on the edge for a long time when it came to pro wrestling. Is, how are people going to remember this guy, And I think with Eric Bischoff, a.k.a. Eazy-E, to give shout-outs to Eric Wright from the NWA posse, Eric Bischoff contributed something to the wrestling business. Turning Hogan heel needed to happen. That was something that, if we would have never got as wrestling fans, we would have been cheated, because Hogan was a good heel, and we were all so sick and tired of the red and yellow. I used to go to the Philly Spectrum shows, and I would watch the Ultimate Warrior, and he was so much more over than Hogan in the Warriors run that it was ridiculous. And I was so happy that they put him over at WrestleMania 6, because that's what the fans wanted. And thank God for Vince McMahon on that. And I say that because most people would not have done that. So the fact that Vince put over Warrior at WrestleMania 6 and it didn't work out, I don't think that's any fault to Vince. Now, with Warrior, Warrior had a different kind of business plan going into the wrestling business than anybody else that I've ever heard of, which is, not a long-term thing, but something to get in and get out with. And if he wasn't making Hogan money, he wasn't going to do it. So that's what it came down to. And maybe that was not the right move. I don't know. That's hard. That's a hard one to decide, because Warrior was his own man. Now, getting back to Eric Bischoff, I gotta say this. I gotta say this. Eric understood live TV in a way that no other wrestling company had ever teased with at that time. ECW was picking it up around the same time. Now, this is where it gets crazy. I'm not a big fan of Nitro 95. I'm not a big fan of, Luger showing up or whatever. Bischoff talks about that like it's so important. And I don't understand why it is, because I didn't start hearing about shit with them until I heard about when they turned Pillman bad with the Hollywood Blondes, and that was shocking to me, and cool, but I didn't hear about anything that was going on with Luger or even Macho, besides the WWF taking shots at them back then with the whole billionaire Ted shit and all of that. But what I'm trying to say is it wasn't real steam until Hogan went heel and Hall and Nash were showing up on Nitro and DiBiase was in the crowd. That's when I heard about it. So when Bischoff romanticizes about the 95 era of Nitro, I guess what it is he's putting together when his era of Nitro began and what was different about it. And I don't know, I didn't see it in those early days. When I go back and watch the shit, I didn't see it. It wasn't until this moment happened because a parallel wrestling league universe was created inside another wrestling league. So it was the NWO and it was WCW, and they were going back and forth. And because of Zbyszko, because of Bischoff, because of however this idea came together, it felt like the AWA and WCW's and WWF at the time were coming face to face in a new way that we had never seen before, and it did kind of feel like the AWA. So I know Bischoff says that whatever, he learned a lot from Greg Gagne, but it really did. It felt like the AWA coming into WCW and the WWF all meeting from three different angles in a way that the wrestling fans couldn't have predicted, and that's why that shit worked. So that's how I got back into it. Was I caught the buzz, and it was my pops who told me about it. He said, "Man, something's going on," and I turned on Nitro, and DiBiase was in the crowd holding up like 4 fingers or some shit, or 5 fingers or some shit. Something was going on. All right, so I just want to remind people, and I want to overall, you know what I really want to do? This is crazy, man, because in the Pillman book that his football coach or whatever wrote, they talk about, getting over on Eric Bischoff, and Eric Bischoff has really, really denied that any of this shit happened the way that this guy said it did. So what Bischoff did was he chopped the butt off of the possibility that they were really getting over on him and fucking with him. But, I don't know even, I lost it. So I'm ranting and raving right now about Eric Bischoff, all right? I think Eric Bischoff is a positive addition to the wrestling business, all right? I'm going to do some more of these wrestling podcasts right now where I'm just talking shit about wrestling. But here's the thing, man. We didn't know how Eric Bischoff would be remembered in 96. But here in 2023, we do. So, Eric, if you're out there listening, man, I just want to tell you, I listen to your podcast as much as I listen to Cornette's. Sometimes I listen to Cornette's more. But the thing is because you're coming from the angle you're coming with on your podcast, the honesty level and the ability to face criticism in some weird way, you are winning in a legacy remembrance. So if you're out there, man, just know that we'd like to see more of that, man. Eric, man, if you were one of the last guys to get going, before all this shit changed in around 9/11, Eric, we'd love to see some more wrestling stuff from you. And I want to say that to anybody who helped in that time period, man. There was something going on. This is the thing. Cornette might not like what I'm saying, but there was something going on around that time period that was good, fresh, and new. And it wasn't just Vince Russo. It was Eric Bischoff. And it was Vince McMahon. Might be time to pick it back up again, fellas. But in a new way. in a way that's not going to go up in a cloud of smoke like it did before. Pro Wrestling Archives. Peace.